Hello viewers, today we are going to look at the topic called data sufficiency. In data sufficiency, they will ask you a question followed by two statements. So you have to answer the question as yes or no by using the statements given. So all you have to check is whether the given statements are sufficient to answer the question or not. Now look at here. The options are, if you look at it on the screen, option A, if the data in statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. So your answer is A if you answer the question by using statement 1, and whereas statement 2 is not sufficient to answer the question. Only you can answer by using statement 1, then your answer is A. Now look at option B. If the data in the statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. So only statement 2 data is enough, and statement 1 is you are not able to solve by using statement 1, but only by using statement 2 you answer, then your answer is B. Now look at option C. If the data in either of the statement 1 or statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question, you can answer by using statement 1, and you can also answer by using statement 2. Individually you can also answer by using 1 or 2 is sufficient, therefore you can say answer is C. Now option D, if the data in both the statements 1 and 2 together are necessary, you can't solve by using 1, you can't solve it by using 2. Your answer becomes option D, if the data in both the statement 1 and 2 together are necessary to answer the question, which means 1 is not sufficient, 2 is not sufficient, but when you combine them, now it is sufficient, then you can say the answer is D. Now your answer becomes E even if you combine, even after you combine your data is not sufficient to answer the given question, then you can say your answer is E. We say option A, when statement 1 alone sufficient but 2 is not sufficient. We say option B, when 1 is not sufficient but 2 is sufficient. We say option C, when 1 is also sufficient or 2, individually both. You can answer by using 1, or else you can also answer by using 2. We say D, if 1 and 2 both are required to answer the question. It is or, it is and, which means you need both. Individually it is not sufficient. Option E, even after combining both 1 and 2 also, if it is not sufficient, then your answer is, even after combining both you are unable to answer the question. Even if you combine both, if you answer the question, then it is D. Even after combining, if you cannot answer, then it goes to E. Now these options may vary. So before actually answering this data sufficiency, you have to go through the options given. Most likely your options be A, B, C, D, E, and these are your options. But in case if they change, you have to go through the option before you solve the question. Now let me give you some examples. If I ask you a question, is X even? Is the question. Now I can say statement 1, X into Y is even. Statement 2, X square is even. See here, I am asking you, is X even? If you look at the statement 1, X into Y is even. Now see, X into Y is even. How many possible cases are there for this? X even, Y even. Then also product is even. X even, Y odd. X odd, Y even. Then also the product is even only. So here the possibilities of X is, X can be even, X can be odd. Can I say by using the statement 1 alone? No, you can't say by using statement 1. Now look at statement 2. Now when you are looking at statement 2, look at only statement 2. Forget about statement 1 or forget about the facts which are given in statement 1. Only look at statement 2. Now what your statement 2 says? Your statement 2 says X square is even. When I say X square is even, obviously see here, when X is even, X square is also even. When x is odd, x square is also odd. Therefore, he says x square is even means x must be even number. So, when x must be even number, I'm actually able to answer the question by using statement 2. So, my answer is option B here. I hope you understood. I am able to answer by using only information which is data which is given in the statement 2. So, our answer is B. Again, if I ask you the same question, my question is x even? Statement 1, x into y is odd. Statement 2, y square is odd. Look at here. First statement says x into y is odd. When I say x into y is odd, product of two numbers is odd when both of them are odd. So, x is also odd, y is also odd. Now, can I answer the question? He is asking you, is x even? Absolutely, I can answer the question by saying no. You have to answer the question. It doesn't matter whether it is yes or no. I can say by using statement 1, x is odd. So, x is not even, but I am answering the question. So, answering the question is important. I can say is x even means I can say no by using which one? By using statement 1. Now, if you are answering by using statement 1, let's check statement 2 also. When you are looking at statement 2, you don't need to combine them, right? You only look at statement 2 individually. Now, y square is odd. When y square is odd, we know y is odd. When y is odd, okay, we don't know about x. When y is odd, we don't know about x. So, statement 2 is not sufficient. Now, you don't need to combine it also because I know 1 is sufficient. So, our answer is option A here. Suppose if I ask you, is x into y odd? X square is odd. Statement 2, y square is also odd. Now, x into y odd, look at first statement, x square is odd. By using first statement, I can say x is odd. By knowing x is odd, we can't answer x into y is odd or not. So, first statement is not sufficient to answer the question because I don't know about y. Now, look at your second statement. Your second statement is y square is odd. I would say y is odd, but I don't know about x. So, when you are looking at statement 1, you don't need to take the data which is given in statement 2. Same is goes with statement 2 also. When you are looking at statement 2, you don't need to know the data which is given in statement 1. Now, both of them are not sufficient. Now, you have to combine them and check it. If you combine and check it, x is odd, y is odd, therefore, x into y is also odd. So, therefore, I would say what? Answer is by combining both, you can answer the question. Therefore, what is your answer? You can say answer is C because by combining them, you can say. So, based on the question, by combining it. So, either 1 or 2, maybe it's option D or C based on the options. Now, see here, if I say x square is even, y square is even. If statement 1 is x square is even, therefore, x is even. Therefore, x into y cannot be odd. So, I can say by using statement 1 alone. Okay. X square is even means x is also even. If x is even means x into y is also even. So, I can answer by using statement 1. So, it is 1. Y square is even. Y square is even means, so I would say 2 is also sufficient. So, 1 or 2. So, that is C. 1 and 2 means, as we discussed, it is what you have to combine both. So, option is D, right. It changes also. Sometimes he may give you this as C and may be C, and may be C and or may be D. That is also possible. Now, let us look at the question. Find a 2-digit number. Statement 1, he says, the difference between the digits of a 2-digit number is 1. So, I would say 2-digit number AB. The difference between them is what? 1. We don't know which is greater, but the difference is 1. Just by knowing the difference 1, I can't say the 2-digit number because there are so many 2-digit number whose difference is 1. So, option 1 is not sufficient. Now, okay, you go for statement 2. The digit in the units place of a number is 20% less than the digit in the tens place. Digit in the units place is b, 20% less means 80% of a. Therefore, I would say a by b is equals to 5/4. So, I would say a by b is 5:4. See, 5:4, you can always write it as 10:8 or something like this, if you cannot simplify it further. So, 5:4 I will write it. So, 5 and 4, it is 54 I can write it, because 10:8, 10 is not a unit digit. So, a 2-digit number whose 10th digit is whose ones place and tens place are in the ratio 4:5 is only 54. I don't need to know whether the difference is 1 or not, because from the statement 2 I am directly getting a is to b as 5:4. The only 2-digit number whose digits are in the ratio 5:4 is 54. There is no other 2-digit number whose ratio is 5:4. So, answer is only by using statement 2. Statement 2 alone is sufficient, 1 is not required. So, our answer is B. Okay, you don't need the information given in 1, because we can find out only by using 2. Look at the question. The question says x, y and z are integers. Is x is an odd number? He is asking you, is x an odd number? An odd number is obtained when x is divided by 5. When x you divide it by 5, you get an odd number. So, what is x is equals to? 5 into odd number. 5 is also an odd number, therefore, 5 odd number into odd number will always be odd number. If you don't know, just check it. 5 into 1 is also 5, 5 into 3 is also odd number, 5 into 5 is also odd number. Therefore, statement 1 alone is sufficient. Now, you have to look at statement 2. Now, when you are looking at statement 2, you don't need to take the data which is given in statement 1. Statement 2, x plus y is an odd number. X plus y is an odd number when x is even, y is odd, or when x is odd, y is even. So, there are two cases. So, from this you can say x can be even or odd. So, it is an ambiguity. So, you can't say anything about x if you take only the data which is given in statement 2. So, statement 2 is not sufficient to answer the question. So, you look at statement 1, it is sufficient. Therefore, you say our answer is 1 alone is sufficient, whereas 2 is not sufficient. Answer is option A. So, here you don't need to actually find out the answer, just need to say whether the given statement are sufficient to answer it or not. Now, look at this one. What is the average daily wage of worker who works 5 days? We know what you mean by average. Average is equals to total sum of observations by number of observations. So, you need to know the total earnings of 5 days divided by 5. He made 80 on the first day. So, it is given that first day he made 80. So, you need to know second, third, fourth, fifth, right. Now, what statement 1 says? Worker made a total of 400 for the first 4 days of work. First 4 days of work he made 400. Therefore, fifth day we don't know, but in order to find out the total sum you should also know fifth day. So, is it possible to find out the average without knowing fifth day? We can't. So, 1 is not sufficient. Now, statement 2, the worker made 20% more each day than he did on the previous day. We know first day 80, 20% more 96. Now, I don't need to find out 20%, 20%, 20% in these cases, but I definitely know the answer here, here, here. Each time you increase it by 20%. If you know the data in all 5, can I find out the average or not? Yes, I can find out the average. Therefore, statement 2, you don't need to find it and prove it. All you need to say whether the data is sufficient or not. So, in this case, statement 2, data given in statement 2 is sufficient enough to answer the question. Therefore, your answer is B, because B alone is sufficient here, 1 is not sufficient. Look at the question. What is the sum of 10 terms in the arithmetic progression? So, arithmetic progression generally how it will be? A plus D and so on. Sum of 10 terms means Sn is equals to 10/2 5, 2A plus 9D, because n minus 1 into D, right. So, what are the things that you need to know? You need to know the first term, that is A. You should also know difference, that is D. Now first term is 10. Is that alone is sufficient? No. By knowing the first term you can't find out the arithmetic sequence and the sum. So statement data given in statement 1 is not sufficient to answer the question alone. Therefore 1 is not sufficient, go for statement 2. What is the data given in statement 2? The 10th term is 2. Is only 10th term sufficient to answer the sum? When you are looking at the 10th term, don't look at the statement 1. When you are looking at statement 2, don't look at statement 1. Now, if you combine both of them, you know first term, you know the 10th term, and you also know the number of terms in it. Therefore, you can find out if you know first and the 10th term, both are required to answer the question. Okay. So when both are required, then you say it is option D. As we discussed, when both are required, then our option is D. What is the average monthly income per family member? So you need to know what is the average monthly income of a family member. The statement 1 says each male earns 1250 a month and each female earns 1050 a month. Just by knowing, okay, a male on an average, a male earns 1250, on an average a female earns 1050, you can't find out the average. In order to know the average, generally what? You know N1, N2, average A1, A2. Here we know A1, A2, but you should also know the ratio of N1 is to N2, because if you know the ratio, the formula is N1A1 plus N2A2. If you combine the two groups, N1 plus N2, this we have seen in averages or mixtures and allegations. So the data sufficiency is basically, it can be from any chapter. So here in this case it is actually mixtures and allegation. In statement 1 he says A1 and A2 values. By just knowing A1 and A2 values you cannot find out the answer. Therefore 1 is not sufficient alone. Now let's check it 2. Ratio of males to female, he is giving you N1 is to N2 as 2 is to 1. Just by knowing number of males and number of females, we can't find out the average salary. We should also know their average salaries individually, A1 and A2. So 1 is not sufficient, 2 is not sufficient, but when you combine both of them, that is sufficient. Okay. Therefore D is sufficient because you are getting the ratio and you are also getting their individual salary. I don't need to find out the answer. I just need to say whether it is sufficient or not. Yes, it is sufficient when you combine them. So answer is D over there. Look at here. What percent of X salary is Y salary? Y is what percent of X? If I ask you, Y is what percent of X? I am changing the question a bit, but it is same meaning. Y is what percent of X? So it is simply asking you what is Y by X? What is Y by X into 100 value? Right? This is what he is asking you. Now see, X salary is 20% of Z salary. Y salary is 45% of Z salary. Statement 1, if you look at the relation is given in X and Z, there is no Y mentioned, so you cannot find out. Statement 2 is mentioned is only about Y and Z, so there is no X mentioned, so you cannot find out. So statement 1 is not sufficient, statement 2 is also not sufficient, but when you combine them, definitely it is sufficient. How? I don't need to actually find out, but let's see here. When I take Z is equals to 100 for a second, then X is 20% of Z means 20. Y is 45% of Z, then it is 45. Now I get this value Y by X into 100. Whatever it may be, when you know relation between X and Y, you can find it. By using Z, by combining statement 1 and 2, you can actually answer the question. Therefore it is again option D. By combining statement 1 and statement 2, you can answer the question. What is the population of state A? After an increase in the population of state A by 12%, state A population is increased by 12%, you can say 112 by 100, it becomes 627.2 lakh. What was it before? I can find out if I cancel it. I don't need to cancel it. Whether I find it out or not is very important. So yes, I can find it out. So 1 alone is sufficient. Now let's check 2, because if 2 is also true, then we go for option C, because both alone are sufficient. If 2, the second statement is not true, then 1 alone is sufficient. Now what is given in the statement 2? Ratio of population of state A to that of state B is 4:5. We don't need B because he is asking you population in state A. So we don't need B. So our answer is what? 1 alone is sufficient. Option is A there. Find the number of males and female in a party. You need to find out how many males are there and how many females are there in terms of number. The ratio of male and female are 3:2. When I say ratio 3:2, so there are 3 males, or okay, you can say 2 females, or else you can say 3 2s are 6, 2 2s are 4. You can say 3 3s are 9, 2 3s are 6. It may go on. So you cannot actually find out the actual number by using the ratio. Now look at the second statement. The number of male is 50% more than the number of female. Male is 50% more means 3/2 of female. Again here also he is giving you the ratio. In both the statement is giving you the same data, and that too it is not sufficient. Data in statement 1, data in statement 2, both of them are same, but even after combining the data, you are unable to answer the given question. So what is your answer? Your answer is option E. Even after combining A and B or statement 1 and 2, you can't answer. Find the ratio of number of boys to the number of girls in a school. Number of boys is 30 more than number of girls. Number of boys 30 more than number of girls. For example, it can be difference 30 means you can say boys is 30 more. If it is 100, it is 70. If it is 110, it can be 80. It goes on like this. So any two numbers whose difference is 30, I can take it. But just by taking difference 30, you can't find out the ratio. Ratio varies. So first statement is not sufficient to answer the given question. Now see, second statement, number of girls is 75% of number of boys. Girls is 75% means you can say directly 3/4 or 75/100 of boys. Now what is boys is to girls? You can say 4:3. You can find out the ratio. So you can find out the ratio by using second statement alone. So our answer is B. What is the sum which earned interest? So he is simply asking you interest, nothing, no interest is given, so take it as a simple interest. So the total simple interest was 7,000 after 7 years. So is directly saying per an year the interest is 1,000, because simple interest it always the same. Simple interest is always proportional to the number of years. For 7 years it is 7,000 means for 1 year it is 1,000. But just knowing 1,000 is the interest, can I find out what is the sum that we put in? No, we cannot. So statement 1 is not sufficient to answer the question. When it comes to statement 2, the total of sum and simple interest was double of the sum after 5 years. For example, if you are putting 1 rupee, you are getting 5 rupees. You are getting 2 rupees in 5 years, which means double means it increased 100% in 5 years. If it increased 100% in 5 years, I would able to say the rate. The rate is 20%. So simple interest at what rate you have given? 20% you have given. But can I find out the sum? I can't. Just by knowing the rate, I cannot find out the principal amount. So 20% will not help you. Now let's combine and check it. If I combine, I know that 1 year it is 1,000 rupees you are getting, and it is 20%. If I know 20% is 1,000 rupees. If 20% is 1,000 rupees, what is 100%? I actually don't need to find out, but it is 5,000 rupees is the principal. All you have to check whether it is possible or not. I would say by combining it is possible. You don't need to find out whether it is 5,000 or 6,000. All you need to say is whether it is possible or not. Yes, it is possible, because rate and the value also you know. So therefore you can find out your principal. After combining 1 and 2, it is possible. Therefore answer is D. At what rate does Shaheen borrow money from Suresh? Now he is asking you to find out the rate. After 3 years he returns 5,600 to Suresh. After 5 years he returns 6,200 to Suresh. In both the cases amounts are given. If you look at statement A, statement 1 alone it is not sufficient, statement 2 alone it is not sufficient, just combine and check it. So he says principal plus 3 years of interest is how much? 5,600. Principal plus 5 years of interest, therefore how much it is? 6,200. Therefore 2 years of interest I would say 600. Interest per an year is 300. Interest per an year is 300. So I would say if you substitute, you will get the principal and also you get rate. I don't need to find out rate, but it is possible to find it out if you combine. What is usual time for Mukesh reaching his office? What is the usual time? Walking at 40% of usual speed, Mukesh reaches his office 18 minutes late. So if he walks with 40% of his usual speed, he takes 18 minutes late, means you can actually find out in terms of percentage. If it is 40%, he reaches 18 minutes late. If he walks with 100%, how many minutes earlier? Okay, how much is the actual time, you can find out, because the difference of time you know. Now look at, by using the first statement alone, I am not finding because no need to find it out. Look at the second one. Walking at 1/4 of his usual speed, he reaches office 22 minutes 30 seconds late. Again, obviously, what happens when speed decreases? Speed decreases, time increases, and you know what percent of speed decreasing and how much time increasing. So you can actually find out by using statement 2 also. I am not interested in finding the answer by using it. I am just interested whether can I say by using statement 1 or 2. That's all. Okay. Never solve if you can say by by looking at it. So I can say yes, I can find it out. Therefore 1 is also sufficient, 2 is also sufficient. Either you take 1 or you take 2, it is possible. Therefore our answer is C. 1 or 2 is possible to answer the question. What is the speed of running train which takes 6 seconds to cross the signal post? So it takes 6 seconds to cross a signal post. He is asking you the speed of train. Now you know the time, all you need to know is the length of train. Look at the statement 1, the length of the train is 90 meters. If the length of the train is 90 meters, it crosses a pole in 6 seconds, so you can say 90 by 6. So just by looking at 90 by 6, I can answer it. You don't need to even divide it. Okay. So our answer is 90 by 6. So by using statement 1, you can answer it. Look at statement 2. A train takes 18 seconds to cross a platform of 180 meters long. If you are looking at only statement 2, do you know the length of train? We don't know the length of train. Just by only knowing the length of platform, you cannot find out the total distance traveled. Therefore, only 1 alone is sufficient. Our answer is A in this case. So far in this video, we have seen data sufficiency problems related to percentages, related to numbers, related to averages, and related to some cases mixed and allegations, some cases related to time and distance, and trains also we have seen. So data sufficiency questions can be asked from any topic. All you need to know is how to look at the data in the given options, and you should know the basics of all the chapters in order to answer the data sufficiency. And one thing must be remembered when solving data sufficiency: don't solve the question completely. If you know that you get the answer by looking at the data, that's enough in data sufficiency. Sufficiency means, is it sufficient or not to answer the question? So that is enough. Thank you.